Taneytown Planning Commission, please come to order. Good to see everyone this evening. Brad, would you lead us off with the pledge to the flag, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start off by welcoming the new commission member, Bill Osberg. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Commissioner members should have received the draft minutes September 27th. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Jim, I have a question on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the ninth paragraph down about the mayor and city council approving the annex agreement. Was that done at that meeting, before that meeting?
It was. The agreement had been approved, and then NVR, the contract purchaser, wanted to see some additional language, and then it went back to council and was reapproved last month.
So then what's
So
in
now
here
we're
is,
trying to chase down signatures on the latest version. But it had been approved back in, I think, August
okay.
initially.
All right, that was the only thing I noticed, had questions about anyway. So I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the draft minutes of September 27, 2021, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Carried. Thank you. Moving on to delegations and action items. I see none on the agenda. Okay, ordinance and agreement, same way. So we move on to Daryl. You want to go over your report?
Okay, so it may seem like there's not a lot going on, but there is. You know, when these developments or projects come in, it gets to go through the whole county process, and it's lengthy. Meadowbrook's just 4 houses, but we're still waiting for 2 letters, one from the health department and one from DNR. And that will be complete. On that note, Jim, you mind if I share about the sidewalk?
Pardon me?
The sidewalk out of Meadowbrook, can I share?
Yes, you need
Okay.
to.
So when you come in off of 194 onto Deverne, there are 4, just after the tracks on the left-hand side, there are 4, Keenan, I'm sorry, Keenan. There are 4 very mature trees on the left-hand side. That's where those 4 houses are going. So discussion was held about saving those trees, but to do that, the sidewalk had to be moved closer to the curb's edge, and we still have to lose the 1 tree. But, so if you're all okay with that, that's what was discussed and decided, okay? So the sidewalk will be closer to the curb, where, instead of being away from, you know, the grass area in the middle. The sidewalks will look a little bit different to you. It's going to go past the first or the last driveway on the right-hand side as you're headed towards 194, and then we'll stop. Okay?
Could you clarify that a little bit? So does it go to the end of the property line or to the driveway entrance?
Just past the driveway entrance.
Okay.
And then we'll stop, because there's no state highway frowns upon sidewalks close to state highway anyway, so, you know, right, Jim?
Yeah, especially 55-mile-an-hour roads.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that
So would
may
that-
change over time as the city grows. But at this point, since the sidewalk does not run all the way down there, and again, state highway's not a fan of putting sidewalks on high-speed roads, we didn't want to push the issue.
Also note, former Mayor McCarron, he joined the Board of Appeals. That board is now fully functional, so we don't have any holdups in progress and activities with that board. Jim was also appointed as chairman of that committee. And also this gentleman, does anybody know Tim Dunn? He's a new member on that committee, pretty active in the community, so welcome aboard. Also, Bill, and I know you're a busy man. It's great that you're here to help us serve the community.
Appreciate it.
2 Board of Zoning Appeals cases. One dealing with a deck variance setback that was granted. The second being esports arena. That variance and special exception was granted. The mayor and council were approached about possibly doing community village at the Sewell property. So looked that document up. It's just 9 pages. It's got a lot to it. But it is one way to develop a parcel of land that's at least 10 acres. So I guess we'll be hearing more from them, Jim. But the mayor and council, once they've approved an area for community village, then it comes to this commission here, and then for discussion and all that. Okay, Bill?
Would it be feasible maybe to have one meeting, we start at 7 o'clock maybe, and have a work session before we go into a regular? Because like you said, how many, 9 pages, and there's a lot of, we have a lot of new members.
Sure.
And it would be good for either yourself or Jim or Jay to walk us through these different categories on here so we all have a better understanding. And if we get it straight from the beginning, we can be able to maybe fine tune it if we need to, or whatever the city council would like to send our way. We have a better understanding. So if you think that's feasible, maybe we can think about that in the very near future.
And I can give a quick overview just to kind of get the thoughts going a little bit. So Community Village is an overlay that will allow a developer to build at a higher density in exchange basically for preserving more open space for the parcel and also providing amenities above and beyond a typical subdivision. Those can be more aesthetic related things to the houses themselves. It can be a community center, swimming pool, that kind of thing. The reason the mayor and council want to delve into updating Community Village is because we've had 2 parcels develop under the Community Village overlay, Meads Crossing and Carol Vista, and neither of those really followed the true intent of Community Village. So with Carol Vista, and Community Village envisions, we've used the term neo-traditional community, where if you think about the older parts of town where you have alleys and the houses are kind of brought up closer to the streets and the cars are all, to the rear instead of out front. Well, actually in the old parts of town, we have cars on both out front and the alleys. But the idea would be to, let the architecture and the homes kind of be what you see and create the impression of the neighborhood and landscaping and, other hardscape type things. Basically, the model community. And in the case of Carol Vista, with it being 55 and better, as they say, age restricted, that demographic perceived alleys as being, unsafe, and the rear-loaded garages or the separate garages were perceived as, from a marketing standpoint, they were concerned that they weren't going to be able to sell it to that demographic with the alleys. And so they were granted an exception to not have to do alleys. Meads Crossing initially did develop following the Community Village guidelines, but then when the housing market tanked, they couldn't find a builder to build that type of product, but they could find a builder who wanted to do a more conventional but high-density community. So the alleys that were originally planned went away, and we have what's in the field now, which I think will still be a nice community, but it doesn't really fit the design aesthetic of Community Village. So because we've had two projects that, even though the developers asked for the parcel to be designated as a community village and to develop under those regulations, both times, by the time we ended up with the final product, it didn't really look like what Community Village envisioned. And council would like to revisit the ordinance and try to see what we think is workable with it, what we think there's just no appetite for, and maybe make some serious amendments to it. So it does require a little bit of knowledge of the rest of the zoning chapter, though, to really appreciate all that Community Village does to be different from a standard R10,000 or R7,500 subdivision. So there are nuances in the parking regulations and all sorts of things like that. So we can delve into it at a future meeting and maybe, as you said, dedicate some time to really presenting the differences maybe between a standard subdivision and a community village. I don't know if that might be a way to kind of,
Yeah, I think that would help us,
That's it.
yes.
so we can get into that a little bit more at a future meeting.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
And then City Manager Wybrecht and I met with Carroll County Planning staff member Bryce Wagner and our liaison Tiffany to discuss the triennial update to the water and sewer master plan. City staff's compiling information to forward to the county for a letter to be sent to the state in, I think, December of '22. And then we met with Carroll County Planning liaison Tiffany Fawcett, and a few others for the transportation master plan. Jim, did you keep so there was some, so like the bypass, that's in there. A couple other roads that just sort of don't make sense or aren't relevant now. Jim had given testimony as to which roads may need to come out of there, just like connector roads and stuff like that. But the bypass still is a real thing. You know, we also have to keep in mind that, you know, we have county staff that are willing to help us in every way we can to get, you know, the shout out the word. So going to delegates and whatnot, that's one way to do it, but the county's got staff to do it as well. So we just need to keep talking about it and keep people on it. 'Cause, I mean, anybody that travels through this town or lives on East or West Baltimore Street and tries to get in and out of their driveways, yeah, it's needed. I mean, but it's fascinating. I sent you all that those handouts.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that in 2040, if the growth still happens, it's only going to add about 3 seconds more to the red light at Grand Drive. Yeah, as you're coming through town. So that's what's out there. So they're not even, you know, it goes red, yellow, and green, and we're not even we're in a Luke green now as far as red being like, oh my God, you know, like in Laurel on Route 1. Yeah, that's a red. You know what I mean? So we have it bad, but not as bad as some areas. Is what the stats are telling the people who make the decision.
It's on the list, but it's not at the top of the list.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think traffic the other day was backed up all the way to Duncan, so, from that red light, so.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So that's about all I have for my report, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, we'll move on to the project list, and we'll touch on those as we go.
Jump in? Do you want me to jump in or?
Sure.
Okay. So I do have a little bit of an update on Bollinger Park. We've been back and forth with our engineer, CDM Smith, and they intend to have the preliminary plan. The preliminary plan was presented here several months ago. And subsequent to that, we met with county staff and discussed some floodplain-related issues. And there were some modifications made to basically avoid any kind of grading that would have been in the floodplain along Piney Creek. It's taken a while to make those revisions and also get some clarification on areas where the walking trail would be a boardwalk or essentially a bridge over water courses, not Piney Creek itself, but other small tributaries, kind of ephemeral streams that feed into the creek. So it took a while to kind of work things out with that and find out what we could or couldn't do from a floodplain and watershed standpoint. So that's been, we believe, worked out, and now we're ready to actually submit it to the county for the various agency reviews at the county. That should be going to them within the next week or two. So
So will we see some type of movement out there, maybe early spring?
it's feasible.
Okay.
We would like to be in a position to bid by spring and be, hopefully have a shovel in the ground before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thanks.
And we do have some timelines. I don't have it right in front of me, but with some of the grant funding that we have received, we do have to start construction within a certain window so that we can spend that grant money within the window that's allotted for it. Let's see. Darrell, I'm not sure if you have updates on much of anything else. I know we already talked about Meadowbrook 7.
Yeah. There's no other activity on those other items.
I mean, where we at with Meach Crossings Community Center?
Their building permits are approved. Their construction has started on the site. I don't know how far along they are, though.
Okay, did we have any ties to when they can start the next phase? I mean, did the community center need it to be opened before we approved the next phase as far as permitting?
No,
We didn't.
no, we did not. So they're able to build in any phase once the infrastructure is in. So they actually are building in phase 2B at this point.
Okay.
And Chairman, they are feverishly trying to get that center completed. It started a little bit later than they wanted it to, but they're trying to make up some ground. So we get that community center open. They want it they want swimmers in it, I think, when as soon as it gets warm enough.
I remember at the beginning, we gave them some leadway, and we just don't want it to walk away from us.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything on Duffy? I mean, just going right down the list.
No. There was one letter, but we've heard nothing from them in a little while.
Okay. Anything else on the list that we need to touch base on?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't know. Storage today hasn't submitted anything yet, have they?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So we're still kind of just waiting for those to get their revised plans back into us. And for storage today, we haven't even seen a preliminary plan yet. So.
Okay.
So we really don't have anything to be reviewing because they haven't given us anything.
Okay.
I suspect they're having some challenges with that site being such a large portion of the property being a relatively steep slope and having that drainage area that heads down towards Piney Creek. I think they're probably having some challenges with stormwater and the stream buffer and things like that. So it may be, it's a challenging site.
And what is the name of the group that's doing the old Havilah? I mean, there's looks like a lot of new construction going on out there as far as not changing the footprint, but the building itself? And are we getting anything back from them? I mean, how things are going?
Well, they have all their county permits, and they're working with a architect in Westminster. Really, there was a lot more to just tearing off the vestibule, so structurally, so that's happening. There's a new roof going on, and they're only adding, they're enlarging 2 windows and adding 1, or vice versa, and then just the canopy, and of course, the pole building. And that's really all that's going on there.
Okay. Any questions on any of the projects from anyone?
For construction phase projects, like what exactly, could someone define that? Like, what does that mean? Like they have a pitch, or that they're expected to be doing something at some point, but nothing's really in, or it's already in process?
Kind of like loose ends?
Yeah.
Most of them are loose ends.
Yes.
Well, Meadowbrook section 4B and 5 are well underway. Essentially, I think section 5 is almost built out. 4B, I think, has already gotten the wear course and everything, but the city hasn't accepted it. I don't believe we've accepted 4B yet. So that one is nearing completion. Sheets is just some administrative stuff that we've been back and forth with them for years. You know, they'd like to close out, we'd like to close out, but we're still waiting for a signed copy of the stormwater agreement for the facilities on their site, and we can't really close things out until we have that agreement in hand. Same thing with Evapco. I think we just have a couple administrative items that just haven't been accomplished yet. George's on York continues to be a standoff regarding a water benefit assessment. And of course, Meads Crossing is under construction, as we all know. Taneytown Crossing, we did just receive the grading permit closeout today. So they're getting to the point where they're winding down. We'll probably get them off the list. In the case of Taneytown Crossing, there's really no public infrastructure that we're going to be accepting, so we don't have to do the normal waiting over the winter to make sure that the curbs don't heave or break up over the winter, and we don't end up with any sinkholes in the road and things like that over the winter. So we might see that one drop off a little more quickly.
That project turned out pretty nice.
Yeah.
Fits well in that corner.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and Tannery Barn needs to do some ESD or environmental site design practices for stormwater. They're supposed to add like a rain garden or something like that, because it turned out that as that project evolved, they ended up disturbing over 5,000 square feet. And we had an addendum to their public works agreement that basically said, once they finally figured out what their final product was, because as those of you who were on the commission may recall, they kept coming back with changes. And because they did end up disturbing more than 5,000, they had agreed that they would do some kind of stormwater mitigation as a result, and we're still waiting on that. And Meadowbrook 6, I think we're probably going to be able to close that one out fairly soon too, because they're well underway. I'm not sure how many lots are left to take down there, but they're moving along at a good pace.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
A lot of those was years and years of before this commission. Okay, thank you, guys. Anything from Jay then? If not, we'll move right on.
No.
Okay. I guess next is the county update. Tiffany? Tiffany?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfectly.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I was having some technical difficulties earlier, so good to be here. Thank you. Daryl already touched on a couple of things that we had between the county and the city for November. but we just had a couple of things that are coming up soon. In November on our website, we did have the second survey for the transportation master plan that has been up all month, but that is going to come down on the 1st, the morning of the 1st at 8 o'clock. So if you have anything to add, please log into our website or go to our website and log into that survey and give some input. And then we also are wrapping up the residential text and map amendments. Before the Board of County Commissioners, they've already held public hearings and kept that open. So they're going to meet on Thursday, the 2nd, to discuss what's before them and possibly make decisions on them. And then we just have the work group that's been meeting for the ag and conservation zoning text amendments and changes that might come to those. And that's it. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Great. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, Stephanie, you too.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Other business? Jim, sometime back, I think the city council agreed to get us some help with the master plan. Do you know where we are with that? I mean, while we got all these new people on here, we want to get them working on something here.
No substantial movement on that. I've had some talks with Jay about different approaches that might be used on getting some proposals. Right now, the question is really whether we go out and we develop a complete request for proposals and provide a lot of detail as to everything we want in the plan versus a request for qualifications where we would solicit interest from firms or consultants that do this sort of work, and then look over their qualifications and check references, and then interview 2 or 3 that we like and work out which one we are most comfortable working with. And just 2 different approaches as to how we might settle on a consultant. It's not like a construction project where we know exactly what we want and we're going to follow the city specs for water construction or sewer construction or whatever it might be. This is more a request for professional services proposal rather than a bricks and mortar sort of thing. So I would kind of like to go with the request for qualifications route and then interview a couple firms to determine who we think will give us the best product and work best with the commission. So we're still unsure which way we're going to go.
So maybe again by early spring,
I'm hoping. I really hope so.
or we're going to be behind. We're already behind.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, and at this point, I think the work that we did a couple years ago is kind of for naught because things have changed since then, and we have new commission members. So I think it's only fair to kind of start getting the current board's input on those chapters that we did look at.
Some new ideas and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thanks. And just real quick on that, Daryl mentioned meeting with the county about the transportation master plan. For those of you who might not have seen this before, on the city website, our comprehensive plan is available out there, and there is one map in particular that is the comprehensive plan map, and from 2010, and that's the one that shows the planned major streets that Daryl had mentioned, and that we discussed with the county in relation to the countywide transportation master plan, and that's where we show the possible alignments for Antrim Boulevard or the bypass. There's also a key crossing road that would connect Stumptown Road across 140 to Maryland 832 or 852.
832.
32. But there's one planned major street that shows that would connect basically the Krause Ford Dollar General entrance back around to Old Taneytown, And we did advise that because the property owners were not receptive to providing that connection when Dollar General was developed, that we did, essentially give up on that little street, that we had intended for it to be, allow for some internal circulation between the bowling alley, Pizza Hut, the bank, and then the businesses fronting Antrim Boulevard. But because there was resistance from some of the contiguous property owners when Dollar General was going in, and we had the opportunity to make that connection, that we opted not to, and that we didn't want to keep that on the plan at this point. But you might want to take a look at that map just to have an idea of, some of the planned streets that are on there. For those of you that have been around through some of the discussions on the Sewell property, there is a planned major street that would connect Route 140, going across the Sewell property, ultimately terminating at Fringer Road, that would then tie back into 194. So, between that and Antrim Boulevard, there would be almost 3/4 of a beltway around the city. But those are the types of things that we started out the conversation with the county on the transportation plan. And they did paint a somewhat grim picture for us as to the uphill battle nature of Antrim Boulevard that we are going to face as far as getting it, back on the priority list. So the first step is to get it back into the highway needs inventory, and the county is going to help us with going through that process. But that's basically the really long-term wish list. Getting it onto the consolidated transportation plan is the one that really can start things moving, but we just don't rank compared to other projects in the state. What we see as being a backup here in Taneytown when traffic backs up to Dunkin' Donuts is just, routine in other parts of the state where there's a lot more population and traffic. So things don't look great as far as it being by any means an easy task to get it back on the priority for the state as a priority project. But those are also things we'll be talking about as we do get back into the comprehensive plan. So sorry to ramble a bit, but just kind of information for the newer guys.
You said that was on the website, that comp plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And if you like, we can send a link out to everybody, just save you a little bit of time for poking around. Sometimes our website's not the most intuitive.
I would
Thanks,
suggest,
Jim.
I would suggest if you go through it, just pick certain sections at a time and concentrate on those sections before you try to absorb the whole thing, because it's a lot in detail, and
Yep.
you need to almost have it in your reading room. All right, thanks, Jim.
Yep.
We'll go around the table. Chris, you got anything for us?
Nope.
Steve?
No, sir.
Brad?
No, sir.
Bill, you all have a lot of questions.
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you. So I guess the next thing is determine our next meeting. And normally we don't have one in December because of how it falls close to Christmas and New Year's. But if we have something that comes up and we need to address, we picked probably the first week in January. And if we would do that, and that's usually on a call from Jim if we have, or Daryl, if something needs to be acted on. Otherwise, the meeting would be January the 31st. So do you anticipate anything coming up that we would need? And there we are, we're just an email away.
Right. Yeah. And something that's going to be a little bit different this year also is, and we usually do, as you said, kind of play it by ear. If something were to arrive that would be an action item we normally would deal with in December, we typically meet in the first week or two of January. Looks like this January, the second Monday, which is the council meeting, is going to be the 10th. But the city office will be closed on the 3rd. because New Year's Day is
right, yeah.
on Saturday or Sunday, Saturday.
Right, it can't- so it
So,
can't,
so
it can't
we,
be
so the
10th
third
either.
wouldn't work. That would normally be what we would do, but that's going to be when we recognize the
Okay.
holiday.
Well, the 10th
um,
won't work either, because that's
Right,
when
and the
we have
10th
our-
will be the mayor and council meeting, so
Right,
I don't know if anyone would be open to a non-Monday, maybe Tuesday the 4th or something like that, just to hold the date open if we do have any action items that come in
okay,
that
the
we need to deal with, that we can't wait until the end of the month.
okay, well, the 4th, I'm tied up,
Okay.
but I don't have to be here, there's others that can handle it. Wait and see.
Okay. We'll work it out if the need arises.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we all good with that? Okay, then, anything else? Anybody, I guess there's nobody on the air or anything else that needs to call in or anything? So with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Made by Lee, is there a second? Second by Bill, welcome aboard. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those, I don't say whatever, likewise, thank you.
Good thing I was muted, Jim. That's all I'm saying. You gentlemen have a great evening. Drive safely.